This woke mind virus, how did it start? Was it bats? Was it a escape from a lab? I mean, what is your assessment of what? Because it's fairly recent. How did it start and why?
I think it's actually been a long time brewing, in that I think it's been going on for a while. The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize. And I sort of came to realize this somewhat late. The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having, and hasn't been for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome into First Reaction TV. My name is J Mart. So today we have a story about a brave young man who tries to stand up for himself and tries to stand up for his own rights. The problem is his little speech may have fell on deaf ears to his own school board. In this video, 12-year-old Liam brings up and questions who this protected class is. And we're going to talk about that protected class a little bit. We also did a little more research into what some of the topics that his own school board brought up. And there was a lot of disturbing stuff, and it caused me to do more research into other schools. And we're going to talk about this DEI program that has infiltrated our schools. And we're going to talk about the issues that it has caused and is currently causing in our school districts. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please hit that like button, comment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 2,000 subscribers, so I appreciate it if you took the time. Thanks for watching, guys.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Liam Morrison. I'm in the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with 2 adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only 2 genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one, yet not another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. My hope in being here tonight is to bring the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time, it may not only be me. There might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
Thank you. Anyone else on public comment?
All right, so little Liam killed it here. He said so many important and true statements in this 2-minute speech that he gave that it was just overflowing with factual information. He said, my teachers told me that I was targeting a protected class. Liam wants to know who this protected class is. Then Liam says, are their feelings more important than my rights? Now, little Liam got a nice little jab in here at his teachers when he said their arguments were pretty weak, but he also said, my teachers made me feel like I wasn't allowed to have an opposing view. He then unfortunately found out, maybe for the first time in his life, that adults don't always do the right thing. And instead of taking the shirt off, he had him call his parents because he said, I know I have my rights, and it's my First Amendment right to free speech. Then he asked his school board to speak up for the rest of us. Speak up for the rest of us who aren't in this protected class and don't even know who this protected class is. So after Liam's done giving his speech, the school board basically just all stare at each other and nobody has anything to say. Well, after the next person speaks, this woman sitting on the school board decides she does have something to say. Now, she doesn't directly come out against Liam. She chooses her words very carefully, but she does give the opposing point of view and the opposing side's argument. And we start to go down this trail of finding out who this protected class is.
And so I just want to thank everybody for coordinating that. And to end with, I'm not going to speak specifically to anything that Liam mentioned from his personal perspective, but I do want to mention that after that event and hearing the staggering numbers of death by suicide for young people in our country and in Massachusetts, that in 2020, suicide was the second leading cause of death for people from ages 10 to 14. And that was really staggering for me. And to see protesters on public property outside the middle school today holding signs that could potentially trigger feelings of despair in students of that age was very disappointing to me. I felt like it was very potentially harmful to children to see those as they were trying to come to school and go about their school day. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
All right, so this woman doesn't directly say Liam is wrong, but she brings up a different topic at the same time. She also brings up Liam's name, and she brings up the action of harming oneself. Now, why would someone do that? Is that the protected class? Or is she just implying that that's what the protected class does? Does this protected class have high percentages for harming themselves? Well, let's find out if the superintendent can help us find out who this class is.
Before I enter into the agenda items, if it's okay, I would like to respond to Ms. Shardoff's report. It is my duty to address what happened this morning as a citizen, as a woman, and as your superintendent. I received messages today with a degree of concern about why I didn't email or send a communication about what happened. That choice was mine. I chose not to email because I knew I had this meeting tonight, and what I had to say, I wanted to communicate orally. This morning, 2 individual adults arrived at the base of Tiger Drive and stood on public property, not school property, while they held 2 signs. As this is the only entrance to the building, every student, family, and staff member entering the property saw the content of these signs. The individuals were there starting at about 7 a.m. and remained there for about an hour. Today's the second last day of school before a period of break. Further, our middle school students took an MCAS exam today, and they did their very best to put their best foot forward despite this occurrence. When I presented to this committee in January, I discussed what I described as a community issue, namely the need for the DEI task force and the need to start having conversations about issues that are characteristically hot button. This continues to be a community issue. It occurred on public property, and it was not endorsed or sponsored by the school district in any way.
All right, so once again, a very cryptic speech where we're talking about something, but at the same time, we're not talking about something, not being specific in any way, shape, or form. But some new things do come up. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Now, what would that have to do with this? She also mentions 2 protesters on public property, not on school property, but on public property, holding up 2 signs that apparently weren't vulgar, or someone would have been complaining about how vulgar they were. So more than likely, the signs probably said the same thing that was on Liam's shirt. There's not more than 2 genders. So let's finish the superintendent's speech and see if we can pick a couple more things out of it to figure out who this protected class is.
Today, our division defined us instead of our similarities. Today, our children were caught in the crossfire of a debate that doesn't belong at their feet. It doesn't belong at their schoolhouse. This is unacceptable to me. Our children deserve the right to go to school in a safe and supportive environment. The dividing line for me, as this district's leader, is when all students are not protected, not accepted for who they are, and told either directly or indirectly that they don't belong here in Middleborough. 2 weeks ago, we confronted yet another school shooting in our country, and I heard from many parents about safety. Exposing our children to messages that marginalize groups of students is a safety issue. Mental health is a significant issue facing our children today. This is an issue that existed before the last few years, and it only worsened since 2020. Student rates of self-harm and suicidal ideation are at rates that are simply terrifying. We must safeguard against anything that harms our students' mental health. Failing to model measured and reasonable discourse is also a safety issue. I will be renewing our effort to achieve respectful discourse on matters of disagreement, specifically racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. I will be calling on town leaders to join me in this cause.
So it's going to be very important to remember everything she says here so we can get a better idea of what's actually going on in the school. So she says this debate doesn't belong at the students' feet. She then says that this crossed the line for her when a marginalized community was meant to not feel safe by basically being told that they do not exist and they do not belong there, indirectly referring to Liam's shirt. So she's very clearly taking a side here. She goes on to prove that point by at the end once again bringing up this DEI task force. Another thing that is constantly mentioned is the rates of self-harm and students feeling safe. So if you just do a little research into the rates of self-harm, you'll find that in some statistics, rates have doubled since the pandemic hit in 2020. Now there's a lot of things that happened since 2020. The students being on lockdown, not being in social environments, being kept out of school, the increasing use of social media. There's also something else that rose during that time period. A report reveals sharp rise in transgender young people in the United States. The number of young people who identify as transgender has nearly doubled in recent years, according to a new report that captures a stark generational shift in emerging societal embrace of a diversity and gender identities. Alright, so to put all this together, we're talking about DEI, we're talking about marginalized groups, we're talking about rates of self-harm, and in one of these groups, the percentages have nearly doubled in the recent years. Now, I wonder what we could possibly be talking about. It's also very strange how the school board tiptoes around this entire subject without actually mentioning what they're talking about this entire time. So with her mentioning this DEI task force, I was kind of curious and did some more research, and I wanted to know how many of these DEI task forces were actually in schools around the country. So I started at my own state. I went to my state's education website, and what do you know, they have an equity and inclusion page. So I scrolled down, and there it is, gender and gender identity, LGBTQ, racial and ethnic identity, on a Department of Education website. So I clicked on the gender and gender identity tab. And here it is, schools and classrooms, gender diversity, words you should know. Assigned gender. A gender baby is given upon birth, usually based on the child's birth sex. Binary gender. The faulty concept that there are only 2 genders, male and female. So within reading the first 2 lines, they are already telling little Liam that he is Wrong. It is a faulty concept that Liam goes by. And they continue to list the rest of the words that we normally associate with this: cisgender, genderqueer, gender expression, gender presentation, gender identity, preferred pronouns. And if you scroll down, they have gender identity lesson plans and activities for you. A guide for gender equality and teacher education policy and practices. A toolkit for creating gender neutral day. School-based curricula. So I'm not going to lie, I was blown away. I was blown away by all of this. I was blown away from everything I read. I had absolutely no idea this was in my own school systems. Going off of my state department's education website, they're flat out telling Liam he's wrong, and no wonder they made him take his shirt off and sent him home. These people have taken a stance. And their stance is, we are right, this is the only way you are allowed to think, and if you don't think like this, we don't want you. So going back to this whole equity and inclusion, protecting all students' rights, it is the most untrue statement these people continue to say. They are for the one true opinion only, and if you don't believe that opinion, they not only won't protect you, they will harass you until you think like them. So I played this at the start of my video.
The amount of indoctrination that's happening in schools and universities is, I think, far beyond what parents realize. And I sort of came to realize this somewhat late. Parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught.
So I watched this interview with Bill Maher about a week ago, and it's weird, but I came to the same conclusion around the same time this aired, that I get people in my comments all the time saying, people aren't being indoctrinated, kids aren't being indoctrinated, show me one school where this is happening, show me this, show me that. I get it all the time in my comments. The research I've done, it's actually worse than the alarmist and the alarming people are even making it sound. I think we're past the point of no return. Indoctrination, noun. The process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. What does it mean to indoctrinate someone? To teach someone to fully accept the ideas, opinions, and beliefs of a particular group, or to not consider other ideas, opinions, and beliefs. So teaching someone to fully accept their ideas, their opinions, without questioning or without thinking of the possibility of other ideas or other beliefs. This is scary. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like this is actually scary. When you look at this as a whole, this is in our education systems, literally in its core. It is inside the system in its core, and this isn't an alarmist point of view. Like, we just went over the Department of Education's website. They are telling you what to believe. And if you have another set of beliefs, they're actually telling you you're wrong. Factual information that's proven by science, the Department of Education is telling them they're wrong. You must think and believe this way. And if you don't, now it's even considered bullying. Now it's considered harassment. And they're actually even trying to increase it, saying that it's words, and words are causing violence on people. I really think we are getting to a critical point here that if there is not pushback, these systems are truly infecting, and I mean infecting, our schools like a cancer right now. This is some of the most disturbing stuff I've ever seen. I'm going to praise little Liam for getting up there and saying what he did. Because after that little guy went up there and said what he did, that school board did not stand with him whatsoever. They showed him zero support. They spent the rest of their entire meeting tiptoeing around the entire subject, but at the same time also saying that if you think or believe what Liam is saying, you're harassing people. You're committing violence with your words. You're bullying other people. And we can't let that happen against marginalized communities in this protected class. Just the thought of you having another opinion or beliefs is harassment and violence and everything else against this protected class. That's where we're at right now. And that is scary. Like, that's extremely scary. I don't know, man. It's getting to be a crazy world we live in. But hey, make sure you guys tell me what you think of little Liam. I appreciate you watching this video. Please make sure you hit that like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate you watching. Thanks, guys.